Hello and welcome to watching VideoGaming Father's video review of a humorous beat-em-up game with undead heroes in the main role called Zombie Vikings. Can one find here any catching story inspired by Norse mythology? Who are the main heroes and what is their motivation? Will you be laughing a lot while playing? Is it one of those beat-em-ups where you just need to quickly press the buttons, or will you need to use tactics and sophisticated combos to succeed? Are there any skills upgrades or other RPG elements making the game more interesting? Will you be beating your opponents easily or will you get beaten by the rough game difficulty? Does the game have responsive and user-friendly controls helping you to eliminate your opponents in an elegant dance of death? Find stylish audiovisuals here. And is the game suitable for family playing along with the presence of local multiplayer to make the game even more entertaining? Let's find it out together in the next few minutes spent with my Zombie Vikings video review. As for the story, one would expect that there will be some funny or maybe scary story heavily inspired by Norse mythology explaining who summoned the main undead heroes and why. You really get it here! Zombie Vikings won't let one be storyless and serves a humorous story from the very beginning in the many fully dubbed cutscenes. Loki just snatched Odin's last magic eye and quickly escaped with it. Thor and the gods are too busy partying, so blind as bad, Odin makes a desperate move. He raises 4 of the most fearsome zombie Vikings out of Norse soil: Gunborg, Sigurd, Hegi and Koka. Undead guys are sent on a mission through the most epicness of worlds to retrieve the eye and make peace with their rotten pasts. This doesn't sound bad, does it? I don't want to spoil much, so I'm just going to say that Zombie Vikings are quite story-oriented beat-em-up game with many humorous cutscenes developing the story further and trying to make you laugh at the dark humor of them. Some scenes are more funny, some less, but in general I can say that the story itself belongs among the positive sides of the game. Let's have a look if the gameplay is at least as good as the game story. In the beginning you choose one of 4 main heroes, or more of them, but I will get to this a bit later yet. The sword, evil bear and the supporting rune, and your long way to retrieve Odin's lost stolen eye can start. There is almost no tutorial, so the game lets you to try basic game mechanics by yourself. Soon you will meet your first enemies, giant carnivorous worms with their smaller helpers. So you just start smashing primary and sometimes special attack buttons, and it really works. The first enemies are sent to eternity without any big problems. Your hero is quite strong from the beginning, so the worms will not cause you much trouble. What I have noticed here, and what I don't like too much, is that your enemies do not have health bars, except bosses, but we will get to this a bit later yet. So you can only see a lot of numbers dropping of them that provide almost no information about the enemy's remaining health. So, you are just smashing and bashing your enemies and hope that they will die at the soonest. Strange design decision though. The other thing is that the game is 2.5 dimensional and your hero seems like a 2D model cut out of paper. This provides interesting graphical stylization, but it's also confusing as sometimes you don't really know how deep on the screen you are, so you can get stuck behind some obstacle, cannot cross the bridge, or bashing in the different layer of the screen than the enemy is. It doesn't happen so often, but it's irritating sometimes.
Truly.
There are many cutscenes in the game, even in the middle of levels, and they are usually funny. The game has a distinctive sense of black humor. For example, in one of the first few cutscenes, you meet a head without body, which becomes your companion in mission to find its stolen body. The good thing is that the head really becomes your companion and helper, so you can throw it against the enemies. Useful especially against the flying ghost or whatever it is. At the end of each level usually comes the boss battle. The first one is quite unsurprisingly against the worm, who dared to steal the head body and now looks a bit like Edward Jim from the legendary platform. Luckily, bosses have the proper health bar unlike common enemies, so you know how successful you are in each moment of the boss fight. The first boss is rather training one, and except avoiding bombs that he is throwing at you, it's just about constant cutting him with your sword. By beating the Worm Prince and cutting him to 4 new worms, you make his giant queen mother upset, so the next level starts with a big escape sequence where you need to run out of Angry Mother. These escape sequences are also a regular part of the game and actually puts more adrenaline into it. So, not a bad idea at all. What else will you be doing in the game? Well, Zombie Vikings has a traditional beat-em-up scheme. There is a level full of enemies that you need to eliminate before getting to boss battle. There are quite a lot of boxes that can be destroyed and usually provide you with some loot like coins that can be used for upgrades or brains that refill your health. This is actually quite stylish considering that you play for the zombie hero. There are various enemies standing against you, but it's quite hard to describe them as you must be prepared for the really weird world that the authors have prepared for you. So, except the carnivorous worms, you will be fighting against small Vikings with a big sword, big Vikings with even bigger sword that are throwing the smaller ones against you, the witches with swords throwing the bombs at you, various hairy creatures bearing the sword made from fish bones, the big guy with the sword throwing the smaller enemies against you who is unpleasant, who manages to charge up his cutting combo, etc. The bosses are also quite original. For example, a giant cat or a big bombing guy that looks like a gingerbread man from some nightmare. Sometimes you get some helper like a unicorn pig, really, that starts vomiting when you get too close, which boosts you in the air, a little bit disgusting but helpful. Also, from time to time there are some mini-quests like getting back the stolen jar of toads to the doctor who tries to cure terminally ill grandpa. So you need to catch the little gnomes who stole it first. These mini-quests along with escape sequences enhance the gameplay in a good way. Are there any other enhancements preventing the game from becoming repetitive too soon? The good idea is that you can choose your Viking hero before each level, so you can play with a different character every time. The problem is that despite the difference in the look of characters, there are strong and big Gunborg and Sigurd, and small but fast Hedgie and Koka, there is no big difference in the gameplay whoever you play for. Most of the time you will be using primary attack and try to dodge the lethal attack from your enemies, and the secondary attack that is different for each character you won't use much, as it's not as effective as one would expect. It is also caused by the fact that there are no statistics for your character, so you cannot improve their skills as you progress through the game. You can only buy new types of swords, giving you better damage, or different special attacks, or new runes that can boost your health, for example. You buy these for the coins that you collect in the game and can do it between the levels. This is a slight disappointment as some deeper RPG elements that would distinguish the game characters more would definitely make the game more interesting and also replayable. How about the game difficulty and controls? Zombie Vikings is not a very difficult game. As I said before, most of the time you just need to smash and bash with your primary attack and try to avoid the attacks of your enemies. There are the checkpoints located before the critical moments, so you won't get frustrated by repeating whole levels again and again. Only problem with checkpoints is that they are sometimes placed before the long cutscene or mini-quest, so if you die in boss battle you need to go through the cutscene again, which is luckily skippable, and the mini-quest as well. The first levels are rather easy, then the game gets more challenging. So you will likely die a few times, but it's still not frustrating, and thus I can easily recommend the game even to casual players. As for the game controls, on the Xbox controller they are responsive and user-friendly enough. Most of the time you will need just left analog stick for movement, and buttons for jump, primary and secondary attacks, and grab. There are block and sprint buttons yet, but I have almost not used them. Will you be pleased by the game audiovisuals? game graphics are very stylish and I would even dare to say artistic in some way. There are many objects in both foreground and background that look like theater sets, which along with other graphical effects like blasts, fire or blobs, make very interesting and likable stylization. Everything is detailed, smooth and in high resolution, so your eyes will be pleased this time. The soundtrack is also very good, and dynamic music, which is a combination of raw and orchestral music, nicely supports the game atmosphere. I would even say that this is one of the soundtracks that could be listened to even outside the game. And I also appreciate funny sounds along with great dubbing and cutscenes. Very good job has been done here, and audiovisuals are one of the strongest sides of the game. I cannot only recommend the game to be played on two old machines, as the game optimization does not seem to be the best, and especially the sound stutters sometimes. So, is Zombie Vikings the game that everyone who likes beat 'em up or hack and slash genres should consider adding to the game library? It has unarguably many pros. Humorous and crazy story based on Norse mythology, funny cutscenes, several characters to choose from before each level, variable and distinctive enemies, light RPG elements in the form of weapons and ruins, mini-quests, reasonable difficulty, responsive and user-friendly controls, original graphical stylization, great soundtrack, likable sounds and voice acting. However, there are also some cons. There are not big differences between the game characters along with absence of their development, clunky movement in 2.5 environments sometimes, no health bars for your enemies except bosses, gameplay based on hitting the primary attack button most of the time, placement of some checkpoints, and the distinctive style of humor is not for everyone. The game is very suitable for family playing, especially thanks to the local co-op multiplayer for up to 4 players, which is really great. I would not only recommend it to preschool kids, as the game might be scary for them in some moments. Zombie Viking costs €12 on Steam, which is quite a lot, so I would recommend wait for at least 50% discount this time. Zombie Vikings brings a distinctive sense of humor and original graphical stylization to the traditional beat 'em up or hack and slash genre, and can be really enjoyable for some time. It would be even better with deeper RPG elements, bigger differences between the main characters, and more complex gameplay based on a combination of elements. On the other hand, local multiplayer for up to 4 players saves the game a lot. Thanks to this, and also the fact that I have actually enjoyed the game most of the time, I'm giving Zombie Vikings thumbs up, and VideoGaming Father's index 7 out of 10. Recommended with some discount. Thank you for spending your time with my Zombie Vikings video review, and if you have enjoyed it, please do not forget about thumb up and also subscribing to my VideoGaming Father's channel. Bye bye!